I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. Would you mind just quickly introducing yourself to those listening who may not know you?
Yes, I'm Veena Jetti. I'm a large multifamily owner-operator. As of last year, we transacted on just over $1 billion of multifamily assets. So I'm very excited about that milestone. But we typically target Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Arizona with Class B value-add multifamily assets. And our primary function and focus is to help investors, passive investors, get double-digit returns on their investment backed by real estate.
Amazing. Now, you said we a lot. Let's talk about who's we in that.
Okay, this is like a weird thing that I have. So I never try to take credit because I can't do all of this. I can't. It takes a whole entire team, right? So everything that we do at Vive is always either a team win or a team loss. And when it's a team loss, then I take responsibility, right? Because the buck stops with me. And that's part of being a business owner. And I think anybody here who has a business understands this, right? We eat last. We take the blame when things go wrong. When things go great, we give away all of the credit. So when I say we, I mean my partner, who's actually also my sister. So she is a partner at Vive Funds. And then, we have all of our teams. I have my JV partner. I have our investors. None of this happens without any of these people, our lenders, our brokers, our attorneys, our CPAs. Everybody makes this deal happen. So I think of it always as like a collective we to get these deals done.
Yeah. It takes a village.
A village. A village.
An absolute village. It takes a village to buy a village and flip a village. So
that's true.
We got to talk about that. And you mentioned, okay, Class B value add. Break that down for those who just went, what the hell is she talking about?
Oh, wait, everybody doesn't know what these words that multifamily people made up mean. Okay, so Class B. So we have Class A, B, C, and D assets, right? Your Class A assets, those are really your luxury, your new construction, really high-end amenities. Those are going to be your most expensive rents. So think like Manhattan high-rise, right? That's probably a Class A asset. Class B is more your garden style asset, meaning there's probably not an elevator. There's probably not a door person. Maybe you have covered parking. You might have detached garages. You might have some townhouse style Class B assets, usually built in the 1980s or newer. And usually there is, a solid, healthy tenant base, maybe one income, but this is usually the last stop before someone buys a house, right? They live there, build their credit, save for the down payment, and then go buy a house. Those are the types of assets we target. So they're more like B plus assets. Then you have Class C, which is workforce housing. These are probably 2-income households. Maybe they make right around $50,000 to $80,000 a year. Definitely a lower AMI in those areas or those assets, and they're older, right? So this is 1970s, 1960s, 1950s build. And then you have your Class D, which is these are going to be not great areas. They're not going to be new assets. They maybe don't have a pool, no amenities, things like that. You might see security features that you don't see on A, B, or C assets, like bars on windows. You'll probably have a high Section 8 population. And look, I'll say that all 4 asset classes, you can make money in all of them. You just have to pick which strategy works for you and your portfolio. We like B, so we kind of stay in our lane there. And then we like the value add component. So value add just means exactly what it sounds like. We're going to go in, we're going to renovate, add value. So kind of if you think about Fix or Flip or all of these shows on HGTV where they go in and they renovate a house and then sell it for a profit, we essentially do the same thing just on a way larger scale. So we do 200 units at a time or 500 units at a time and renovate over more than 30 days, right? It takes us 5 years, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less. And then we sell it for a profit because we've forced appreciation.
Amazing. So the value add components, I've heard you talk about this on your social too. One example is adding reserve parking or something like that is the value add, right?
Yes. I love adding reserve parking. That's one. You can do renovations there. So you can upgrade from white appliances to stainless steel. You can put in updated lighting fixtures. You can add low flow shower heads. You can add LED lighting. You can add smart thermostats. You can add Ring doorbells or keyless locks. There's so many ways to add value. Valet trash. Like you said, reserve parking is probably one of my favorite. But there's so many different ways you can add value. And it also kind of depends on where your asset is and what the market will tolerate or ask for.
Right. And so you've been in this game for a good minute. And
yes.
I would love to know what got you interested in real estate and what got you interested in multifamily, especially.
Okay, you'll really appreciate this because I got married in 2012 and my husband's an anesthesiologist, so he's a high income earner. He was a W-2 at the time. I was also a W-2. And we paid taxes as a married couple for the very first time. You know what is not tax friendly? Being W-2 earners. And we were living in Washington, D.C. at the time, so we had local tax as well, not just federal tax. And it was insane. I think we paid like $200,000 in taxes our very first year married. And I was like, what is happening? So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, what just happened? Why are we doing this? And she was like, okay, yeah, you need to quit your job. And I was working for a multi-billion-dollar company. So it's very rare that you have a parent who encourages their child to just quit their job because they paid too much in taxes, right? Because if you're paying a lot in taxes, you're probably earning a lot too. And so she was like, yeah, quit your job. And I was like, okay, well, this seems legitimate. And she was like, quit your job, start investing in real estate, get full-time rep status. And so I started investing in single family. That was what I did initially. And it was because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that someone like me could own a multifamily building. I thought like only Jeff Bezos and Oprah could own those, right? Like I didn't think it was for the everyday person. No one told me about it. I didn't know. And I come from a finance background. I came from the corporate real estate world. I come from a real estate family. And despite all of that, I still didn't know. So I started buying single family, put 5 houses under contract in 1 week. And I hated it. Hated it. Because it's so much to manage. There's no scalability. There was no way for me to go and collect rent very conveniently from everybody. I had to send plumbers here and I had to answer phone calls at 2 a.m. And so I really hated single family because it doesn't scale. And that was what really made me think there's got to be a better way. And that was where I discovered the world of multifamily.
Amazing. What keeps you going in multifamily, despite the challenges that come along with it? Because although it can scalable, it has its own unique challenges, right?
Oh, many. I've cried myself to sleep many nights in the last decade plus that I've been in real estate. So I will say the thing that keeps me going, it's twofold, right? My why is one, of course, my family, my children. But two, I wanted to build a legacy that will create wealth for people that haven't been born yet, right? Like not just my children, but future grandchildren and great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren. That's how the prominent American families have built their wealth, is by planning for 5 generations. So that was one. But the other one, and this is probably the more important one to me now, and it may be because I've kind of checked a lot of the box of the first why, is impact. It's unacceptable to me that my daughters are growing up where most of the people that are in the position that I'm in are men and white men at that. And so I want my daughters to have role models of looking at someone and saying, wait, I could do that too, because if you see it, you can be it. And I want to make that change. I want to change people's lives. I want to help people. And I think that by continuing to do this and do it successfully and operate at the highest levels, other women see me, other minorities see me, just other people who come from like even disadvantaged socioeconomic backgrounds. Like maybe someone didn't go to college. Maybe I didn't go to an Ivy League school, right? But these are all things that are possible. And I think when that world of possibility opens up, more people dare to step into a dream that feels audacious or a goal that feels audacious. And I want that to be the norm so that there are more people that have that are role models for my children. So more role models for my children. So that one's like still self-serving a little bit, but I want the impact. I want to change.
Right. And, there's this big kind of, I call it a campaign right now for it's who, not how.
Yes.
So what I'd love to hear from you is who was instrumental in that journey of you kind of giving yourself the permission to participate in this industry, but also how did you kind of overcome that barrier of that maybe this isn't for me?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I told you my mom has been really instrumental in just setting a great example. She's a very successful real estate investor as well. My parents came to this country with $26 and a dream of a better life for my sister and I. And we weren't even born at that time when they made that sacrifice. So part of it is kind of a how, because I feel, or maybe it's a who, I feel a strong responsibility to take the sacrifice that my parents made and do something with it. Because when they came in the 80s, America was the land of opportunity. It was where you could move from one socioeconomic class to another in one generation, in the same generation. And I wanted to make sure that I took whatever opportunity they gave me and sacrificed for me to have and really maximized it and did the most with it. So I think that is probably the initial who/how. As far as the who goes now, it is, my securities attorney, his name is Nick McGrew. He is based out of LA, phenomenal attorney. And he has been someone who has been so good about keeping me up to date, latest and best practices, coaching me through questionable scenarios that I hadn't really planned for from a legal perspective, helping me get through them so that it would be the best outcome for our investors, right? I also work with Rosie Noel. I don't know if you know her, and happy to make an intro, by the way. She's incredible. She's my mindset coach. So I coach with her. I actually coach with her like almost twice a week now. And she is somebody who has just completely changed the way I think, right? When I start letting that imposter syndrome creep in, which is often, she pulls me back out of that. And I've had so many people, I couldn't even name all the people that have changed my life for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think of that like Oscar acceptance speech of what we do. And I go, I would be one of those people with the long ass CVS receipt of names thing, because I'm just going, it was not just me. It just to your point earlier about the we. And I do the same thing. I said what we do here, and it's like it's me doing most of it, but it's me because it's a team effort.
If any one person is missing from the equation, it doesn't matter how good you are. You can't get it done. It's like trying to drive a car with only 3 wheels. It doesn't matter, like all the wheels are important, or the engine is important, or the steering wheel is important. So just because there's different job functions, you need all of them to function.
Yeah. And you mentioned, so we talked about a little bit like the challenges with multifamily, right? What are some of the biggest mistakes that real estate investors, particularly in multifamily, can make? Like, what were some of your biggest lessons learned early on that you're like, well, I'm never doing that again?
Yeah, we could do a whole 18-hour episode on this and still not be done talking about all of the mistakes I've made over time. Okay, so the singular biggest mistake that I've made looking back, and look, it's really easy to say this in hindsight being 2020, right? It's much harder to see this in the moment or looking forward. But I really undervalued the power of these like communities and mentorships and programs. So I've never paid for a mentorship. I never paid for a VIP ticket, none of that. And now I look back at it and I'm like, well, Veena, you're a huge moron. Because I always thought that like these communities and these mentorships and like all this stuff, I was like, I don't really need to pay you whatever money you're asking me, whether it's like $100 or $100,000, didn't matter to me. I was like, I don't need to pay for that to learn what NOI is. I can Google that. And I'm right. You can Google it. You don't need to pay for that. And so now I'm in these rooms and I'm on these stages and I'm in these networking events and I'm in the VIP because I've earned my way there, right? Like I've spent over a decade building my career and my business and my real estate portfolio well over a decade. So now I'm in these rooms. Now I look at it and I'm like, wow, you were so dumb. You thought the power of what was in these rooms was knowledge and education about technical terms. It certainly was not. It was a mindset. It's being around people who know that there are greater things, who think that like these audacious goals are not really that audacious. They're the people that are like, okay, you're going to buy $1 billion in multifamily. How can I help you get there? Right? So it's a mindset. It's an attitude. It is having other people's contacts. So now I have contacts of everybody that I'm in that room with. I have their entire phone. Whoever is in there, I now have access to that because we're in the same community. We want to help each other. That is the level. And so this is so powerful for me but now I get to take this and give it to the other people that are in the community, right? And so that is what the power of these rooms are. It is the experience that you are in proximity to, right? So it's when the first time someone gets shot on your property and you're like, now what do I do? I've never been through this. Or when you have, a tenant that is threatening to sue you because they fell down the stairs, like, what do we do, right? And these are common things that happen on multifamily assets. It's just the nature of high density living. But it's now I'm in that room and I can say, hey, Susie, this just happened. What do I do? And then she's going to say, great, I've been there, done that, totally normal. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to handle it. Here's what you need to say. Here's who you need to contact. Here's a phone number of someone that can help you with this, right? So like that's the power of those rooms. So that's the single biggest mistake I've made. And I think it probably has cost me, it's hard for me to quantify, but at least tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions. I don't know because my life isn't done yet. And the most important and most valuable thing is time. So if I had known these things 12 years ago when I quit my corporate job, or even before I had my corporate job, right? If I had known these things and I had leaned into this and I had moved full force ahead knowing this, I mean, money is exponential and the time value of money is so important when you're calculating your future worth that I could have probably added hundreds of millions of dollars to my net worth.
Or years of experience. Because or you'd be doing all of this a lot sooner and you'd be further
100%.
ahead in knowledge, right?
Exactly. That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you brought up a good point too, which was like tapping into that network and absorbing that knowledge. I think that's what's holding a lot of people back, especially people who are, whether they're women, minorities, whatever. I don't belong in these rooms. I'm not an investor. I don't identify this way. It's because they go, well, I don't already know these things. No shit. You're not supposed to already know these things.
Right. No,
you learn these things. And I think people are just stuck in that threshold of, well, I'm not already an expert and therefore I'm not qualified. But I think you kind of just shattered that and said, just get in the room with the experts that help you. And you can enter your way in without nearly as much of a resistance as you would have on your own, which I think is what you just described you experienced.
100%. Look, here's something I've also noticed, and I'm sure you've noticed this in the rooms that we've been in together even. Yeah. Successful people don't gatekeep and they don't compete. Like people think at the top we're competing with each other. We're not. We're collaborating with each other. At the top, collaboration happens. At the bottom is where you see competition. So if you find yourself in a room that is competitive with you and where people are not saying like, oh, I know the person that knows this, or let me tell you the things I do know, or let me help you brainstorm through this, right? If you're not in that room, you're in the wrong room. You need to be in a better room, and they exist. There are many of them out there.
Right. I totally agree. And I feel like there's a lot of people who say, like, why would I want to get in the room with other people who are doing what I'm doing? Like, are they going to steal my ideas or this or that? That's 100% a scarcity mindset approach.
Yes.
And I'm going, no, you've got nothing to lose. Once you've made a certain amount or you're at a certain level, you got nothing to lose. And you frankly find joy in helping the next generation. That's part of why you're there.
100%. Oh my gosh, you're like speaking into my soul right now. Because if you would have seen Veena 10 years ago, I was like, no, I can't show you what I have. I'm not going to tell you. No, I worked so hard to put together this template. I'm not going to give it to you. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I have a template for it. Hang on, let me airdrop it to you right now so that you can go do it. Oh, and actually, let me send you the editable version so you don't have to go and reinvent the wheel. Why? It's not competitive, it's collaborative.
Exactly. And there's a degree of trust you have also in these types of communities and circles too, where it's like, hey, I know, like, if I give you this now, and it's not a quid pro quo expectation of transaction. There's this idea of reciprocity too, where it's like, I'll scratch your back and then eventually I'll have an interview. And yeah, exactly.
100%.
That I can call on you because I know that like I've been there for you and vice versa. That's just 100%. Relationships.
Yep. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I just love that more women are embracing this concept because I feel like women naturally dip into that competition inherently, even if it makes no logical sense.
Yeah, no, I think like society has kind of trained women to feel like we have to be competitive with one another, like that whole mean girl spirit and vibe. I think that happened when we were young growing up. I definitely experienced it throughout my life. I still experience it now, and it's hard not to fall into that too, I'll say, because I've definitely fallen into the scarcity mindset, the competitive mindset. The difference is, right, is now I think that together we can change the narrative, right? Society tells us there's only room for like one of us at the top. So if I'm the woman multifamily representative, quite frankly, that's bullshit. Why can't there be 100 women investing at the top?
Right.
100 men have done it forever and ever and ever, and nobody thought that there wasn't enough, like there were too many men at the top. So why can't there be more women at the top?
Yeah, exactly. They didn't look at each other and go, you look just like me. There's too many of us here.
Right. They were like, oh, let me help you get to the top. And so I feel like when women do that, it's really, really powerful because we're cut from a different cloth, right? Like our makeup is just different. And when we have an opportunity to feel collaborative versus competitive, it is really incredible to see everybody kind of lift up and lift each other up and support each other. And like having the girlfriends I have now, I've never had anything like this before. I mean, if your girlfriends are not cheering you on, helping you, saying your name in rooms of opportunities, if they're not doing all that, then you're in the wrong friend circle. You got to level up.